So the outage at this power station, that we're seeing what might happen to it, but does it sort of shine a bit of a spotlight on reliability of some of our coal fleet? We've got some older power stations, and we know during heat waves they don't always operate at full capacity.
Well, Tom, I mean, facts are facts. Coal-fired power has been absolutely reliable for decades. It's held up Australia right across the board. More than 60% of our existing generation is still coal-fired power. And this is just part of industry itself. As things come to the end of their asset life, risk does increase. I'll be interested to see whether there's been any changes from the Queensland state budget. I mean, these are assets owned by the Queensland Labor government. They're a government-owned corporation. And there is any number of reasons that you can have a failure like this. But catastrophic failures, Tom, are something that engineers strive to avoid for their entire careers.
So in terms of reliability, you're just saying any power source that gets towards the end of its life does become unreliable,
Well, this is the nature of mechanical equipment. That this is just what happens, depending on how many hours of operation they've had, how much maintenance they've had, whether major overhauls have been done or not done. It's the same as your car, Tom. As your car gets older, well, it has some more challenges if you don't keep the maintenance up to it. But this
car's not been that old, but it has had some challenges. You must have realised.
No, not at all. But I mean, this is a very catastrophic outcome. However, the positive, I'm advised that everyone is accounted for. I think that is a very positive outcome. It means that on the site, their operations and emergency response has worked. Clearly caused a significant trip, which is what happens when you trip a very large unit.
Yeah, so the worst has been avoided. Your colleague, Matt Canavan, was concerned this happened in a tweet because of a hydrogen leak. He tweeted, "Have we thought through this hydrogen stuff?" Strange connection to make, isn't it? Hydrogen's in a lot of things. It's in you and me.
Well, I mean, I've seen media reports from others with similar suggestions as to the cause. But putting my engineering hat back on, Tom, these things take time to investigate. There are multiple potential reasons, from turbine blade failures to bearings to a number of other reasons.
But just because this could have happened because of a hydrogen leak doesn't mean we need to rethink using hydrogen as an energy source, does it?
Well, places like Callide Power Station and others are always very cautious on their risk profiles. They put a lot of things in place to ensure these types of incidents don't occur. I'll give them the time that they need and the time that is necessary to investigate this properly, and they'll look for cause and effect. But I'm really pleased in terms of no injuries. Certainly that's the advice we've got so far. Right.
But the possibility of this being a hydrogen leak, does that make you concerned about using hydrogen as a future fuel source?
Well, I mean, we use LPG for barbecues, we use LNG for exports and a number of other operational needs. We use gas in laundries. I mean, this is part of the things that happen in everyday life.
Okay. Kurri Kurri, this new government power station, gas-fired power station, it raised some eyebrows. It only needs to be used 2% of the year is the estimate. There are some pretty big battery announcements in the region as well. Could they have done this firming capacity instead of the new gas government paid for plant?
Well, everything's about the profile. It's about what is the need, what is the cost, what is the reliability factor, and this is a good decision from the government. I mean, what's very clear to me is that the New South Wales State Government have not done enough in terms of covering those closures which are very close for large coal-fired power stations. Gas is a peaker. It's used right around the country right now. It's reliable, it can run up quickly, and this is a good decision.
So, but when we're talking about what could have happened, because generally the coalition wants the private sector to do the work where it can, there's a 700 megawatt 4-hour battery proposed at the Origin Energy coal site in the Hunter. CEP is planning the world's biggest battery, 1,200 megawatts there as well. Could that job of Kurri Kurri been done by this other possible private investment?
Well, Tom, once again, batteries are all about how long they'll run for at what level of demand. So you've stated that there's one potentially which could run at peak capacity for 4 hours. I'd put to you, if you're on the table in the theatre and you're getting a quadruple bypass, where do you want your power coming from? Well, I want it from something that's reliable, that runs continuously. Now, there is a place for all of these types of generation. In fact, we've funded a number of hybrid locations across the country. It's horses for courses.
OK, but Kurri Kurri, as I said, is estimated to run for 2% of the year. What's the longest it would operate in a single go, if you like?
Well, these things are capable of operating 24/7, 7 days a week.
I understand that, but the estimate's for 2%.
Well, I haven't seen that estimate, so I'm not sure where it comes from. What I know is that generation like gas-fired turbines can run up quickly. They can be used as peakers. They can be run for a continuous amount of time. And that can be done in a very fast period. And if we can make it affordable, and that's probably around $6 gas, then it ensures that there is affordable, reliable, dispatchable power into New South Wales.
Right, but if it's being used 2% of the year, obviously the more it gets used, the bigger the battery, the longer the battery would need to run to replace it. 2% of the year, a 4-hour battery at 700 megawatt might be able to do the job, no?
Well, this is about physics. I mean, electricity and energy use and energy transfer is all about physics. So it takes an assessment of need, it takes an engineering determination. There's a lot of other pieces in this, Tom, about system strength and security and maintaining frequency control. It's not just about how big is your battery. There's a lot to it. That's why you have power system engineers and technical designers and people who do transmission lines. What we know is we have a very large closure which is looming. This can be built in the time necessary. The government's made the right decision and the right choice. I look forward to seeing the construction start.
What do you make of that 2%? Does that sound like it's not being used much? I mean, that's a pretty niche thing to spend $600 million. That's the alleged price tag. I'd be willing to bet it'll be more in the end.
Well, I'll come back to my earlier point, Tom. If it's you or one of your family members in hospital and that is not available and you lose power at that critical time, I know what outcome I want. I want the lights on.
The project you did veto for federal funding we spoke about last time, the Caban Wind project under the NAIF, it was unclear this week in Senate estimates if this was department advice. Was it?
Well, I'll make a few things clear right now. I mean, it's been a commercially sensitive decision, so I've been cautious in my comments and remarks, but clearly that hasn't affected the opposition or the media that's surrounding the decision. I've reconfirmed with the NAIF there was no battery included in the proposal which we assessed, so it wasn't dispatchable. Hence, we've made a decision around the facts that were put before me for that proposal. I'll table a statement of reasons in the Parliament, as I've said previously, as is required by the legislation.
Okay.
But we support affordable, reliable, dispatchable power.
Right, so you said there wasn't a battery, therefore it wasn't dispatchable. So if there was a battery, it could be dispatchable?
Well, how long's a piece of string? I don't have a proposal in front of me for that application. Well, there's a lot of things that could be, Tom.
Okay.
The reality is I had a set of facts before me. I made a decision based on that application.
Okay. Well, at the risk of deja vu, we don't perhaps need to re-prosecute that. But just clarifying, was it department advice or not?
Well, I get advice from a number of different sources. We consider all of those elements. I have legislative authority in terms of making a decision.
I understand the authority,
I did make.
yeah, but I'm just asking if it was department advice to veto this project.
As I've said, Tom, I get a lot of ranges of advice, information and reports. We have a number of discussions. We make a decision based on the proposal that's before me and the government's policy of the day. And our policy is for affordable, reliable and dispatchable power.
But why can't you say if it was your decision or the department's?
Well, the decision rests with me. I'm the decision-making minister. I made a decision.
But did you get advice from the department?
I get any number of advice. There's a range.
I know you get any number of advice. You're a minister. You have a department.
Correct.
Did the department advise you on this?
Well, we've had the proposal for the loan put up through the NAIF. That's the process that comes through. As I've said, I get advice from a range of sources, including...
Did that include...
Of course it includes my department. However, that advice is generally confidential.
I'm not asking for the advice, but did they give you advice specifically on this project?
Well, I get advice on all projects.
So there was on this project?
Well, clearly I get advice from a number of sources, including the NAIF. But the NAIF is the principal...
Will we one day find out what the advice was on this project?
Well, I'll be tabling a statement of reasons for decision in the Parliament.
And will that include the department advice?
It'll include a range of reasons.
Will it include the department advice?
Well, generally, the advice in terms of what I put forward into the Parliament, in terms of the statement of reason for decision, is a legislative requirement and I need to meet what is in the legislation.
We'll wait that. I'm sure it'll be out soon.
I'm sure.